From Newzroom Afrika studios in Johannesburg, welcome to this edition of This Week in Politics. My name is Vuyo Mvoko. Thank you for joining us.
Shoot to kill, kill on kill the poor, the farmer, kill the poor, the farmer. I repeat.
EFF leader Julius Malema begins what could be a distracting years-long battle to avoid 5 years in prison. This at about the same time the fight for both growth and survival is hotting up among the country's largest political parties ahead of forthcoming elections.
The question is whether the DA can lead South Africa. Whether we can become the largest party in national government in future. And let me tell you, as your newly elected leader, my answer is a resounding yes. Yes, we can.
And speaking of upcoming elections, the one person whose campaign has begun in earnest, DA Johannesburg mayoral candidate Helen Zille, showed up again this week, but this time met her match, however, outside of the pool.
How can we even trust you to lead anything when you can't acknowledge that there's a genocide going on in Gaza?
And in the Eastern Cape, the ANC's Nelson Mandela Bay Mayor, Barbara Lobishe, also met her match outside the comfort of her office, except she avoided her own comrades-turned community activists and, like her Joburg counterpart, Dada Morero, escaped embarrassment by sending in officials.
He is, for me, more than well qualified to execute this task of being South Africa's ambassador to the United States. And of course, he still has to present his credentials to the government of the United States or to the President of the United States. And I am more than hopeful that just as we have received and accepted the credentials of Ambassador Bozell, he will also be accredited equally in that manner.
And finally, President Cyril Ramaphosa gets to appoint ambassador to the United States. Views are mixed, though, as to whether Ruth Meyer's appointment is a stroke of genius or pandering to the dictates of one Donald Trump. All those stories and more in today's episode of This Week in Politics, which starts right now. EFF leader Julius Malema was eventually sentenced this week in his long-running firearm case, nearly 8 years after the incident in Mdantsane. The court handed down an effective 5-year prison sentence, with other counts running concurrently, and declared him unfit to possess a firearm. But within moments, his legal team moved to challenge both the conviction and the sentence. Malema remains out on warning, pending that process. Newzroom Afrika's Sipa Gema was there.
Red berets and struggle songs outside court, a show of support that lasted nearly 8 years. Inside, the moment finally arrived. Sentence handed down after a long legal battle for EFF leader Julius Malema in his firearm case.
In respect of count 1, you are sentenced to a period of 5 years imprisonment. In respect of count 2, you are sentenced to a period of 2 years imprisonment. In respect of count 3, you are sentenced to 20,000 rand or to undergo 6 months imprisonment. In respect of count 4, you are sentenced to 20,000 rand or to undergo 6 months imprisonment. In respect of count 5, you are sentenced to pay a fine of 20,000 rand or to undergo 6 months imprisonment.
But the defense moved quickly, filing an urgent application to appeal both conviction and sentence, arguing there are strong grounds to challenge the outcome. The state rejected that, saying the case is solid.
The court have thoroughly considered all the evidence. Like the court pointed out earlier, the court had a long judgment dealing exactly with every issue that has now been raised by counsel, whereas the court have made those findings in respect of each of the points raised. It's my submission insofar as the conviction is concerned, there is no reasonable prospects of success and no realistic chance that it will be overturned on appeal. Insofar as the sentence is concerned, Your Worship is of the view that I did request that the 15-year sentence must be imposed. I also provided alternative sentences which might be imposed to the accused. I'm satisfied with the sentence that was imposed by this court.
The court then delivered its decision on that application, drawing a clear line between conviction and sentence.
The decision with regards to conviction, this court abides by its decision as stated on record. This court has not had a change of heart and clearly stands firm on its decision to convict. Therefore, leave to appeal in respect of conviction is not granted. In respect of sentence, there is always a possibility that another court may come to a different conclusion regarding sentence. Therefore, this court does not have any intention to stand in the way of such a possibility. Safe to say, no, I'm not going to add that. The court will not stand in the way, and therefore leave to appeal sentence in this matter is granted.
But the sentence and the conviction will now be tested in a higher court. Outside court, Malema made it clear the fight is not over.
We are going to appeal this matter. We are going to make sure we go to Grahamstown and we are going to dismiss a judgment which was poorly read and which was poorly written. She has granted us leave for appeal on sentencing and refused to give us leave to appeal on conviction. We must petition the High Court to appeal the guilt verdict and the sentencing itself. Today, because all they wanted was to have me sleep here for one night.
A long legal road that has reached sentencing, but not the end. The next chapter will play out in the higher courts. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I am Sipa Kema in Kokombo City.
The EFF faithful marched to various high courts, including the one Julius Malema mentioned there in Makhanda. They were out there to show solidarity with their leader, whom they supported throughout the years of the trial.
We're at the Makhanda High Court here in the Eastern Cape, which is expected to be the site of a legal showdown as Julius Malema, the leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, seeks to have the judgment, the extempore judgment that was meted out against him of 5 years of direct imprisonment appealed. Now, according to the Superior Courts Act, Malema has 15 days in which to file this application. So for today, at least, he does get to go home. And so what we're likely to see is that there will be an application that's filed before this Superior Court, and that will be the leave to appeal application for the sentencing. But we're expecting that they will also petition the court in relation to the conviction or the failure, the dismissal of the application for leave to appeal insofar as his conviction is concerned. You'll remember that this relates to the firearm charges that were leveled against him after that EFF rally in 2018. I'm just going to try and speak to some supporters about how they feel regarding the judgment that was handed down today. Can I just get reaction from you as EFF supporters regarding the judgment that was handed down of 5 years against Julius Malema?
We are saying that judgment is cooked. A free forum will not defeat our leader. That's what we are saying.
Tell us, you know, there has been accusations that have been leveled not only against the AfriForum, but also against the magistrate, particularly by EFF leader Julius Malema. Is this not contrary to the prescripts of the Constitution, given the fact that he is also a leader in society and should be upholding the highest standards of ethics in our society?
No, my question is that this was cooked when Ramaphosa was in Washington, when Donald Trump called for the arrest of our leader. So we are saying that they are using something that they don't even know. You understand, there is no tangible evidence, and we are saying that by fire, by force, that sentence will disappear. That's what we are saying.
Thank you. I'm just going to try and get more reaction from people that may be willing to speak. I see you're wearing an EFF Student Command T-shirt, assuming that you are a member of the Student Command. Tell us, in relation to what you have seen transpire today, not only the judgment that was handed down, giving him a custodial sentence of 5 years of direct imprisonment, but also that extempore judgment where the magistrate granted him leave to appeal in relation to the sentence. But what do you make of the fact that they didn't grant leave to appeal, or the magistrate didn't grant leave to appeal in relation to the conviction that was meted out against him earlier this year?
Oko sikufumeneyo kwijaji ayongxaki nanjengoko isizathu soba kuaphilwe is to make sure that i-conviction ayinikweyo eMonti namhlanje iyaphikiswa erheni ngedate ethe yanikwa yona. So namhlanje nje ibisi statement esitshoyo uba even us as the youth command sizosupporta uCIC ngeli xesha linje. So ibinto nje enhle kakhulu nangoko sinethemba kuba xa kuzoaphilwa uzayiwina so that ne-charges azibekiweyo zicinywe.
Thank you. That was Soletu Madzilwa, who's essentially saying that they are hopeful hopeful that the appeal that was launched by EFF leader Julius Malema will be successful. As I mentioned earlier, this particular appeal is in two parts. So he is going to petition the High Court for leave to appeal insofar as the conviction or the failure to appeal the conviction is concerned, but also the leave to appeal application insofar as the sentencing is concerned. So he says they are hopeful that he will be successful at the end of the day. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Zoleka Kotashe in Makhanda in the Eastern Cape.
Zoleka Kotashe outside the High Court in Makhanda shortly after the sentencing of the EFF leader. It's of course outside the same court that Julius Malema will be petitioning. Political parties, like the rest of South Africa, were divided over the outcome. The DA, the Freedom Front Plus, the Good Party and the ACDP were among those who welcomed the sentence. Among those who took a different view were the ANC, the NK Party, and the UDM, while others chose to tread rather cautiously. Now, in plain and simple terms, what though happens to Julius Malema now? I spoke to legal commentator Ulrich Roux a couple of hours after the sentencing of the EFF leader.
When one looks at what the state argued for, they insisted that a period of imprisonment of 15 years should be handed down, whilst the defense argued for a suspended sentence coupled with a fine. The magistrate deciding on a sentence of 5 years imprisonment effectively, which certainly, in my opinion, sends out a very strong message to any would-be offenders and to society at large that our judicial system and our courts are no longer going to be lenient whatsoever towards crimes being committed through the use of firearms. You know, a good and balanced sentence at the end of the day, in my opinion.
Now, Julius Malema, addressing his supporters, said they want to set aside both the conviction and the sentence. The court, however, has said they can appeal the sentence, but not the conviction. What does that mean for him going forward?
Well, Julius Malema has confirmed that he is going to appeal both the conviction as well as the sentence. He was not granted leave to appeal the conviction, which means that he now needs to petition the High Court in order to supersede the Magistrates Court's finding and in order for him to be able to approach the High Court in appealing that conviction. He has been granted leave to appeal the sentence. So the magistrate found that there is a possibility that a higher court could come to a different conclusion upon sentencing him, and he will now duly have to file his appeal with the High Court in order to have that sentence set aside. So essentially, he will be appealing both the conviction and the sentence, but he will have to first petition the High Court of Appeal in order to be granted the right to appeal the conviction. So most certainly, this is not the end of the matter whatsoever at this stage. I think we can be ready for another 3 to 4 years of this matter being ventilated in our courts. Julius Malema himself has also confirmed that he is willing to approach the highest court in South Africa, the Constitutional Court, in order to prove his innocence and to escape jail time.
So in the meantime, he continues to serve as an MP, and of course, among his responsibility is that of a member of the Judicial Services Commission. That stays, that continues until all these matters are ventilated in the courts.
Yes, indeed. He was also released on warning pending the finalization of his appeal, which means that he is not in custody and he will not be detained in custody pending the finalization of the appeal. And then Section 47 of the Constitution, as you correctly point out, confirms that any member of Parliament who is convicted of a crime and sentenced to a period of imprisonment of 1 year or more is automatically disqualified from being a member of Parliament. That is, however, with the caveat that all appeal processes must first be exhausted before Section 47 comes into play. So for the time being, and until a higher court either sets aside Julius Malema's conviction or his 5-year sentence of imprisonment, he will remain a member of Parliament.
My colleague Colin Gambi also canvassed the views of Professor Richard Peterhouse, Research Fellow at the Global Center for Advanced Studies.
We cannot allow a situation where people randomly fire weapons into the air in a packed stadium, clearly. And I also think that we have to take seriously the fact that we've got a serious problem of gun violence in this country, and romanticizing guns and presenting them that way is a problem. Nonetheless, it's a massive problem that it was AfriForum that raised this case, because they have no social credibility in this country. We could talk about that perhaps. But to answer your question, I don't think so. I don't think 5 years in jail is an appropriate sentence. I personally don't think we should be putting anyone in prison if they're not a direct threat to other people's safety. I think prison is a very dangerous, toxic institution that damages people. We need to deal with the problem of gun violence in this country. That includes dealing with the culture around it. And I think we need to draw a very clear line about what democratic politics looks like. And 30 years after apartheid, there really is no need for any kind of militarized symbolism. But it should have been a democratic state dealing with this issue. Our state does not deal with these kinds of issues. I live in Melville. We're near West Park Cemetery. People fire guns into the air at funerals. The police are there. They don't do anything. Why is one person being singled out? AfriForum are not intervening to make a general point that people shouldn't be able to fire guns in built-up areas, as the law says. They are particularly targeting Julius Malema, and that is political.
After the break, we'll look at the political, this time, implications of Julius Malema's sentence, not only on his party, the EFF, but also on the body politic. That and more coming up in a moment. Don't go away. Now, so much is at stake for the EFF and its leader over the next few months leading to the local government elections. And beyond that, as political parties try to outsmart each other ahead of the 2029 national and provincial elections. Now, in 2024, the EFF lost 5 National Assembly seats compared to 2019, and subsequently relinquished its third position to newcomers, the MK party. And in the last local government elections, the party rose overall, albeit marginally. Now, facing increased competition and no longer rising in quite the same ways it did before, how could the events of the past week affect the now 4th largest party's electoral fortunes going forward? Well, Dr. Ongama Mtimka is a political analyst based at the Nelson Mandela University in Gqeberha. Dr. Mtimka, thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I've tried to leave the legal stuff to the legal analysts and professors, but I have to ask you this, because after the sentence was delivered by the magistrate, the EFF leader went outside where he, of course, again repeated remarks he had made before, that there's a whole political conspiracy behind this. I don't know what you made of the statements he made there.
Good evening to you and your viewers, Vuyo. So when politicians do this, they always are trying to elevate what otherwise are criminal charges that they have been found guilty on to something which is a lot more noble, which is political persecution. And that happens in a democracy, and when it does, we all get to be concerned, because it happens a lot, for example, in fragile states where a sitting government would persecute members of the opposition. But we must be clear that this can hardly be said to be the basis upon which a court of law in South Africa makes decisions. Yes, there's been a lot of things said in public, but there has been a case in front of the judge of a violation of the Firearms Control Act, which has been judged on the basis of that and a sentence imposed. Whether or not that's correct, the courts, the higher courts, are going to make that determination. But I think that this is failure to be accountable for actions. Julius Malema should admit that this was a strategic mistake, more so around an issue that has got nothing to do with the main revolutionary program of the EFF, if you like. They are operating in a democracy, and there's every democratic means for them to pursue the struggle of economic freedom in our lifetime. But I argue that the things that have gotten Malema in court, singing songs of the liberation struggle that some sections find offensive, and firing a gun in a stadium, even if that appeals to armed struggle, messaging, those were, in my view, ill-advised. Even the legal ones are ill-advised because they continue creating a basis for attacking the EFF by sections of society that have got nothing to do with its main program. If you look at its infamy in the White House, it's not the program of land redistribution that's in a leader that wants to, that is serious about the mission that they have said is their mission, is known for. All they are known for is songs which, in my view, belong to the past, and in this instance, a tactic that too belongs to the past. So who must be blamed? Who do you blame? Your opponents, AfriForum in this case, for making use of your own mistakes? I mean, it can't be. And then you can't blame the courts for making decisions that are narrowly about the cases that are before them. The courts, the AfriForum may very well have been motivated, to deal with Julius Malema, but that's not what the case before the court was, and that's not the case that's sending him to prison.
Well, interestingly, I mean, you're saying this is not a part of their main revolution program. However, EFF Secretary General Marshall Dlamini did say that from where they sit, this is a fight against the EFF as well.
Interestingly, the EFF has got in its constitution some requirements or obligations for members, and one of them is the issue of not bringing the party into disrepute. It's interesting that the ANC has went further to define what bringing the party into disrepute to include formal charges. So if this was in the ANC, the step-aside rule would have been evoked. It's interesting, I think Marshall is right, that disrepute in this case has been the chosen strategy of the EFF, and as such, it is them who are under attack. Why they harp on, for example, an act of criminality, in this case, firing a gun, it's not allowed, but why they keep on harping on these things that are peripheral, in my view, to how you advance economic freedom. The thing about economic freedom is that it's an objective thing that can be measured. And we have history of how countries, developed as the template for how you advance a struggle for economic freedom. They are right in saying being involved in politics of make-believe is what they seem to enjoy, because that appeals to latent anger among the population. And when you don't think that you've got a viable program that can help you, to deliver economic freedom, you are going to harp on populist sentiments and narratives about, how you waged the struggle in the past, and how some past symbols remain relevant today, which is unfortunate for me.
Now, Dr. Mtimga, if one adds the threat of legal action by ANC provincial chair and premier in the Eastern Cape, Oscar Mabuyane, following comments that Julius Malema made during that speech outside the court, the EFF is going to be very busy in terms of both his appeals, but also other cases, or at least one more case that may come before him. What is all of that going to do to the EFF, which is contesting local government elections in a few months' time and contesting national and provincial elections in a few years' time?
Many of the voters of the party are not bothered by issues of, the style of politicking of Julius Malema, whether he's factual, whether he makes baseless accusations. What you face in their platforms is, in fact, attack for calling those things out. I think the bigger issue for me is internally in the party, there doesn't seem to be an imagination of reality beyond the tenure of Julius Malema. And in fact, this case, the conviction, as well as the sentencing, which threaten his right to hold public office, are forcing the constituents to think and grapple with the issue of whether Julius Malema is going to be there for long, and whether he's going to, whether he's going to be there at all, available to lead the EFF, and secondly, how long that can be. There has never been a time in its short history of over a decade where the party needed to grapple with the issue of whether Julius Malema is going to be there as it is this time. And I think that it would be good for them in this period, if they care about the sustainability of the party, to focus on a program of leadership succession that is affirming of the leaders that are rising there, rather than this tendency of hogging the platform and not allowing other leaders to have space for them to actually gain a footing among the rank and file membership of the party or the wider support base of the party. And if they're thinking as organization builders, that's the trajectory that they should be taking, where Julius Malema is intentional about positioning key leaders within the party to be accepted. Because, Vuyo, it does happen, we saw it with Alexander the Great, that you start a great movement and you are able to, be formidable during your time. And once you are gone, it disintegrates. And one of the things that make movements disintegrate is the competing claims that may be there among the next layer of leaders, for leading the party. And I think that the risk and the probability for that is quite high at the moment when you look at the EFF and the organizational risks it's facing.
A quick parting shot, Dr. Mtimka, on the back of what you've just said. How does that measure up against what some people have said is a situation that won't fly? If you were to bring anyone from those who are there currently to those who have been there before, the EFF is Julius Malema, and Julius Malema is the EFF, and no leader, has come through yet that can actually do what Julius Malema has done for the EFF.
That's the reality, and it may be the reality now. It doesn't have to stay that way. If the appeal drags, Julius Malema can be intentional in rallies to profile other leaders, give them mileage, so that it is them that are delivering certain media briefings, that are handling certain things, and then crisscrossing the country, so that they get accepted by the wider constituency of the EFF. So the state of affairs as things are at the moment doesn't have to say. And in fact, they no longer even have the luxury to not do this, because they are facing for the first time in this election a party that is formed by one of the senior leaders of the EFF. And we know that how the ANC lost power was more because of the activity of its former leaders who went on to form political parties, more than it was about general voter trends. So those voters that left it, a lot of voters were staying away, but those that left it found home in political parties outside of the ANC. So when people form political parties, they give, no matter how small, a section of a support base of the party they spent the most time in, an alternative outside of the organization that they have voted for. And I don't think that the EFF is going to be absolved of that.
Dr. Mtimka, thank you very much for your time and insights. Really appreciate it.
Thanks to you.
After the break, the dawn of a new era for the DA, a new leader, a new federal executive chairperson, and an overhauled leadership. Well, that and more is what we are going to be talking about next. Don't go away. The dawn of a new era for Democratic Alliance, a new leader, a new federal executive chairperson, and an overhauled leadership. Delivering his acceptance speech on Sunday afternoon at the close of the party's two-day elective Congress, Newly elected federal leader Geordin Hill-Lewis declared his goal of making the DA the largest party in national government. Newzroom Afrika's Kanita Hunter was there.
Democrats, now this is the moment we are ready to announce the new federal leader of the Democratic Alliance. This has been a contest between two candidates, and we commend their collegial, respectful, and thorough campaigning. They have both been a true credit to this party as they have stood as candidates. Delegates, it is my pleasure to announce that the new federal leader of the Democratic Alliance is Geordin Hill-Lewis.
His election was predicted but still momentous for the DA. Geordin Hill-Lewis says he will lead the party on a renewed mission to become the largest party in South Africa.
The question is not whether we can oppose or whether we can govern. The question is whether the DA can lead South Africa. Whether we can become the largest party in national government in future. And let me tell you, as your newly elected leader, my answer is a resounding yes. Yes, we can.
Amid celebration and jubilation, Lewis mapped out the task ahead, setting his sights on leading national government.
Now we must build the biggest party in South Africa, a party that is strong enough to win. That is the mandate you've given me today. That is the mandate you've given me today, and I accept it with determination. I accept it with complete belief and passion for our party and for our country.
The leadership elected on Sunday reflects a younger, more diverse team. Delegates say this signals an exciting moment for the party.
The Congress was free and fair and democratic as usual. Embracing diversity, as you can see, the new leadership, more young people on the leadership, and also, as I was saying, it was free and fair.
As you can see, the outcome has been announced. People are hugging each other, and it's just a beautiful moment where we again prove that the DA is an organization that must lead this country.
With new leaders elected, the DA leaves Gallagher Estate with a bold vision to lead South Africa after the next election. But the party concedes that getting there will take hard work. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Kanita Hunter in Midrand.
A day after his election, Hill-Lewis and members of his executive, accompanied by their Gauteng Metro mayoral candidates, hit the ground running. They spent the day engaging residents in Soweto in the city of Johannesburg and moved to canvass in Tshwane's Lodium and Attridgeville in the city of Tshwane. Newzroom Afrika's Ntokozo Khumalo tagged along.
Dancing with residents in Soweto and breaking bread with gogos, the Democratic Alliance is taking its message straight to communities after hosting its largest federal conference. New leader Geordin Hill-Lewis says the focus is growing local businesses to create jobs while fixing basic services. Some small business owners welcome the visit, but say support must go beyond campaign season for them to be able to continue making meaningful, sustainable contributions to the local economy.
We give them meaningful work with better salaries. I mean, our staff, they don't use transport to come to work. They walk, and they are the people in the community, and we are able to assist in families whereby now bread is in the households.
Others raised concerns about trust and transparency when dealing with government.
Kuningi esikwenzayo sinama-business proposal amaningi esimphile wona ugovernment, but ifeedback yakhona ubona seyishintshwe kancane seyisebenziswa omunye umuntu esingakujabulela nje ukuthi asondele ngokweqiniso kithi azobona ukuthi ilokuthi sizothuthukisa kanjani.
Hill-Lewis says fixing the basics is key to unlocking growth.
When the basics work, when things function, actually small businesses benefit from that because the whole economy is uplifted and people start to invest and things start to get better. And so businesses benefit from that as well.
In Tshwane, the focus shifted to crime and urban decay, issues the party says are holding communities back. In Laudium, the party leaders say areas that once had thriving communities and businesses are now struggling due to rising crime and the influx of illegal immigrants.
I used to come to Laudium as a young boy, and Laudium was clean. Laudium had a small hospital here. And these flats were clean. Streets were functional, and there was a business district there. The center would rival a number of towns on its own, just as a city center. Because there was law and order, but business was thriving.
The party says it will not allow urban decay and will deal with crime by ensuring policing powers are at ward level.
You should be turning to the police to protect you, to serve you. You shouldn't be afraid of what the police can do to you unless you're a criminal. And I'm afraid that many people are scared of the police who are not criminals.
Helen Zille also joined the campaign trail going door to door in parts of Johannesburg. The party hopes its ground campaign will help grow support, especially in communities where it has traditionally struggled to gain a strong foothold. Dogozo Khumalo, Newzroom Afrika, Laudium, Centurion.
Well, no sooner had her leader left for Cape Town, where Hill-Lewis is the mayor and almost guaranteed another term after local government elections, than Helen Zille pulled another stunt in her quest to become the city of Joburg's next mayor. Not so long after she dived in, swam and snorkeled in a massive water-filled suburban pothole the municipality had ignored for 3 years, and within 24 hours, the city sent workers to repair the pipe and fill the pothole. And this week, Zille took a boat ride on a flooded Soweto road whose drainage system had not been fixed. Soon thereafter, municipal officials arrived again and started attending to the problem. It wasn't long, though, before she too had to face her own, or is it her party's, music.
How can we even trust you to lead anything when you can't acknowledge that there's a genocide going on in Gaza? You say that, please, let me finish. You say that we must wait for the ICJ to rule. The ICJ has found that there's a plausible case of genocide. The ICJ has said that we must respect the rights of people. Amnesty International's ruled, Human Rights Watch has ruled, the International Association of Genocide Scholars has ruled, and you continue to deny that there's a genocide. Where is your morality? How many more children must die?
Activists, it seems, are determined to hold politicians accountable ahead of the elections. And in a moment, I'll be speaking to another activist in Nelson Mandela Bay in the Eastern Cape. Activists, it seems, are determined to hold politicians accountable ahead of forthcoming elections. In Nelson Mandela Bay, in the Eastern Cape, local activists are showing up the politicians. Mayor Babala Lobishe had to dispatch officials and municipal officials after the activists exposed conditions under which township residents have to leave. Zugile Matigane leads the group of local activists who have taken it upon themselves to bring residents' problems to the attention of politicians. Mr. Matigane, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. I mean, as our viewers can see on the screen, the visuals of certain places in the townships which have been left unattended to by the municipality, and you guys came in and drew the municipality's attention to the problems. Why is it, I mean, in your conversations with the mayor and the officials and everyone else, leaders of the ANC in the area, what are their explanations?
Good evening, Vuyo. Good evening to your listeners. What I found to be very much disturbing across the board with the politicians and the city officials, they always, whenever there's a problem, they blame the people, they blame the residents. It's either if the robots or the traffic lights are not working, it's the residents who are stealing the cables. If sewage system is not functioning properly, it's the resident who are putting foreign objects in the sewer. So it looks to me as if everyone is complaining. The residents are complaining because we're not getting the services. The politicians are blaming the residents. There's no one who's willing to take leadership and provide solutions to the problems. That's what my experience is, Vuyo. And the explanation is always about the people, is the people. The fact that the infrastructure is not maintained or has not been maintained for a long time, the fact that they are not servicing the drainage or the sewer system, they are not cleaning the stormwater system. It's not their problem, it's the residents' problem. That's what I'm experiencing.
What's interesting for me is that when people like you then cast a spotlight, shine a spotlight on the problems, they are quick to come and do a bit of damage control. It's the same thing that has been happening over the past couple of weeks here in Johannesburg, where whenever Helen Zille has then gone to, expose these problems, shortly thereafter, you have municipal workers coming in to actually solve the problem. That's what baffles me.
Yes, and you will find out, take for instance, in any community here, you've got a ward councillor, you've got ward committees that are on stipend, so they get paid by the municipality to work with the councillor to bring residents' problems to the attention of the authorities. But you'll find this very same people complaining that we report, and they're not lying, because I've experienced it. People will be reporting faulty drainage system, burst water pipe leakages, and the municipality will be taking ages to fix. So people are doing their duty, they are reporting, but the officials, that's where you then find that the blame for me is that you don't have a strong oversight to the officials, to the administration. And the reason that you don't have that strong oversight, because you've got political instability. So if there's no strong political leadership, it then cascades down to the officials. People just don't care. There's no other way to explain the thing. People just don't care.
Well, let's hope, Mr. Matigane, that people like you will keep on doing what you are doing, if that's what it takes to get the politicians and the officials to move to do the right things. Zugila Matigane live from Gqeberha in the Eastern Cape. To this now, more than a year after Ibrahim Rasool was expelled from the United States and declared persona non grata, President Cyril Ramaphosa finally appointed a new ambassador. Asked by journalists about it during one of his public appearances this week, this is what the president had to say about tapping veteran negotiator Rolf Meyer's hand.
Rolf Meyer is a South African, a very loyal and patriotic South African who has distinguished himself in a number of areas where he has worked. And yes, he did lead the National Party negotiating team together with myself. He was a cabinet minister in the initial government of national unity and has done very well in those areas. Recently, he's been involved in mediation processes in a number of countries, and that in many ways has sharpened his diplomatic skills, where he has been able to get involved either in conflict situations, trying to bring peace amongst differing or warring parties at a very quiet level, continuing to assist even our government in its diplomatic efforts. And when we needed to appoint an ambassador to the United States, I found him to be more than qualified to be able to work in the United States, recalibrate our relationship with the United States, interface with a number of stakeholders in the United States. As it is now, he's been interfacing with a number of people in the United States, both in the Capitol Hill, in the various departments of the United States. So already a lot of interactions have taken place. So he is, for me, more than well qualified to execute this task of being South Africa's ambassador to the United States. And of course, he still has to present his credentials to the government of the United States or to the President of the United States. And I am more than hopeful that just as we have received and accepted the credentials of Ambassador Bozell, he will also be accredited equally in that manner. So he will represent South Africa very well. He has always flown the South African flag, and he will do so like all our ambassadors all over the world. And all we should do is to wish him well and the very best and give him all the support that he needs. The United States is the largest economy in the world, and it still plays an important role in our own economic fortunes. But more than that, at the diplomacy level, there's quite a lot of work that needs to be done to recalibrate and in some ways repair the relationship with the United States.
The big question, of course, is how the Trump administration is going to respond. That's where we're going to leave it this week. Thank you for watching.